What's going on, guys? Welcome back. So today we're going to continue looking at and learning about World War I. When we left off, the Archduke of Austria-Hungary, Franz Ferdinand, was assassinated by a teenager who was hired by a terrorist organization known as the Black Hand, and that was Gavrilo Princip. Yes, this teenage boy right here, arguably single-handedly responsible for starting World War I, a war that would involve up to 50 different countries, sometimes more than that at various points in the war. So the Archduke is shot by Gavrilo Princip, and this is like the metaphor that I described pre-World War I Europe as a firework on 4th of July. It's just sitting there. It's not lit, but you know that once the fuse is lit, this thing is going to explode. And that is what happens because if my alliances start to unfold in Europe. All right, so you start to get initially Austria declares war on Serbia. They believe that Serbia put Gavrilo Princip up to this. They knew that Bosnia wanted to be part of Serbia, so they feel that Serbia was the one that put them up to this. Well, Russia supports Serbia. So because Serbia has had war declared on them, Russia decides to jump in. They say, whoa, wait a minute. We're going to get involved too. And so now Germany sides with Austria, and Germany says, whoa, you're not about to just jump my boy. Austria is my boy. You're not about to jump them. We about to show up. It's going to be 2-on-2. So Germany jumps into the war, and they declare war on Russia and on Serbia. And then France is obligated through a secret alliance to help Russia. And so France jumps in, and France is like, well, no, that's my boy. And then all of a sudden, Great Britain gets involved to help France. Germany reaches out to the Ottoman Empire. And in a couple of days, you have all of Europe engulfed in a war. All of Europe is jumped out into this crazy war. And again, it all starts by one country declaring war on another. But it is those secret alliances that you see unfold that all of a sudden all of these other countries start to jump in. And then you see imperialized countries start to jump in because they know that, for example, Germany has colonies in Africa. And so those colonies in Africa that don't want to be under German control anymore, they jump into the war on the other side because they know that if that side wins, Germany will have to relinquish or give up control of that colony elsewhere. And so you see alliances and imperialism immediately come to the forefront as World War I blows up into a much, much larger war than maybe it ever needed to be. What started as a regional conflict between Bosnia and Austria-Hungary, Bosnia, which was part of Austria-Hungary, turns into a global war because of these alliances, because of imperialism. And then you got countries that are like, well, we're better than you. We were looking at a reason to get back at you. We remember when you taxed us for whatever. And so they get involved. And it's just all of these countries start getting involved. We just came out of the Industrial Revolution. You have new technologies that countries are waiting to use to showcase their power and how strong they are. We're going to do another video on World War I technologies. But it takes a matter of days before all of Europe is just engulfed and brought and tied up in this war. And so Germany, we're going to come over here for a second. Germany is in a rough spot geographically. Germany, and I'm going to poorly draw this because I'm not a good artist, but to help you get the point, right? Let's say this is Germany right here in the middle. Okay? Germany has an enemy on this side, on the Eastern Front, which is Russia. But they also have an enemy on the Western side of them, which is France. Now, there is a country that is not involved, Poland, that is right here. Well, Germany, a German general says, well, this is not good. The longer we stay involved fighting on two different sides, we're going to be in trouble. So we need a way to get one of these countries out really quickly. And so General Scheifelen comes up with the Scheifelen plan, which was that Germany would march, instead of fighting France here, because this is where France has put all their troops. All of the French troops are right here. They don't want to invade Germany, but they're ready to fight Germany if Germany invades them. So all of their troops are right here. Well, Scheifelen looks at it and says, if we come this way, we're gonna face some opposition. We're gonna be in trouble trying to go this way, right at the French forces. And so Scheifelen says, we're not going to do this. What we're going to do is go into a neutral Poland and go around the French forces. And try to get into Paris that way and take over Paris. Well, it initially goes very, very well. However, France is able to recover just in time to fight back against the German invasion. But Scheifelen was the one who said, let's go through Poland. Now, remember this, because spoiler alert, something very similar happens again. But what is important to recognize is that because the Scheifelen plan did not work, Germany is forced to fight on two sides, on two different fronts, as they are called. And so, as I was saying, the Scheifelen plan was a plan designed to avoid fighting on two different sides of the country, on two different fronts. A front is a zone of conflict between armies, where two armies are fighting one another. And so the Western Front is in France, which we just talked about. That's where Germany is fighting France. The Eastern Front is Russia. And so the two sides get to fighting. They get to fighting. And it turns into an area called no man's land. And that's because of these new technologies that emerge. But we're going to talk about no man's land here in a second. But the fighting on two different fronts really hurts Germany's resources and their manpower. They're having to split their army into two. Whereas if they only had to fight on one front, they would have been able to arguably easily take over on one of these two fronts. But instead, they're fighting on two different sides, and it's straining them. It's stressing them. It's impacting the German ability to be most successful in these attempts. And so you see trench warfare emerge. Trench warfare emerges, and you can see they're just really, really deep dug tunnels, essentially. And these soldiers would live in them. And on the other side of the trench, in between the two sides trenches, was no man's land. And no man's land was called that because it looked like this. It was completely wiped out by all of these new and improved technologies of World War I. Now, to illustrate no man's land, right? So let's say you have Army A right here, and you have Army B right there. It's called no man's land because no man survived trying to get from one side or the other to the other. No man's land. It was certain death because you have all of these new technologies that emerge. So not only do they dig their trenches in, but they put barbed wire outside of their trench, right? Both sides. So you have barbed wire on the outside of the trenches. Then, within, as if that was not enough, you have landmines that are set up. Still today, there are portions of France that have warning labels along fences that say there could possibly be undetonated landmines there. It's like warnings. So you have these landmines that are there that would blow up in case someone stepped on them. So you got barbed wire to get any potential invaders caught in. You have these landmines that would blow up if anybody were to step on them. You then had machine guns posted up at the front to mow down individuals that you saw pop up out of the other trench. Machine guns that would shoot fast enough to make the human body look like a slice of your finest Swiss cheese. But if that wasn't enough, you also had professionally trained snipers on the outsides of your trench, designed and trained to, from a distance, pick off individuals one by one should they barely peek out above the trench. The sniper was supposed to be able to put a fairly strong and powerful bullet right through their face so that the front of their face exploded out of the back of their head. Now, this brings me to one of my themes of world history. That is, males, I'm on your team, I'm on your side, we're dumb. We do dumb stuff. We're arguably the dumber of the two genders. Because there were women that fought in World War I, whether it was they disguised themselves as males, whether it was they took over for their husbands, whatever reason, nurses that took up arms in the midst of a battle. Women fought in World War I. Men also fought in World War I. This is called no man's land because no man made it across. You know how many women tried to go across no man's land and died there? None. It's not a documented case of a woman trying to cross no man's land and dying. There are thousands of cases of men trying to get out of no man's land and go to the other side. And this is why I say men were the dumber of the two genders. Because let's play this out, right? Side B, let's say this is France, trying to get to the German side. So you're going to get out of your trench, right? Manage to be put on your invisibility cloak to not be seen by the trained snipers on the other side. That's number one. Then you're going to not get stuck in your own barbed wire. You're going to manage to avoid stepping on any landmines that would blow you up into a 500-piece puzzle. Then you're going to use your abilities from the Matrix to avoid getting mowed down by any of these machine guns on the other side. That's number one. Then you're going to cross no man's land, where, mind you, it is very easy to be seen because there's nothing there. But you're going to cross that. Then, not only that, you're then going to use your telepathy to know where the other side, put their landmines, tiptoe around those to manage to, again, not get blown up, avoid getting stuck in the barbed wire and slowly bleeding to death. Again, dodging bullets from the machine guns as you get closer while the sniper still cannot see you. Here's why I say we're dumb, though, males, because we all think we're Rambos. Let's say that happened, right? Let's say, you know what? You were the super soldier that was able to do that. When you got to the other side, what what were you going to do? Because you don't look the same. You don't sound the same. And soldiers are living together in this trench. So I feel like they're going to immediately know that you don't belong there. You have, at best, a chance to get off 3 shots, 4, maybe 5 if you're super good, before you are just absolutely annihilated in this enemy trench. So again, males, we're dumb. We do dumb stuff. No Man's Land, perfect example of why we are dumb and do dumb stuff. But I digress and continue. We talked about the 2 alliances, but this is the part that I want you to see. Eventually, over 50 countries would get involved in what they call the Great War. 50 different countries. They had 2 names. You need to know these. The Great War and the War to End All Wars. That is what this was known as. Extra credit if you can reach out and tell me why it was not called World War I. We're going to stop here for today. You do have an assignment to do on Canvas. Reach out to me if you have any questions about what we went over or the assignment. And as always, have a great day.